Gander Outdoors Truck Series final practice session. We had a practice session 50 minutes this morning, and it's interesting. A lot of teams have learned a lot of different things about their trucks as they have rolled into this second 50-minute practice session, dialing them up. Are they going to dial them up for a qualifying run later today, or what they're going to do in the 250-mile race here tonight? We'll see. But right now, trucks rolling onto the speedway. By gosh, there goes Harrison Burton rolling his Safelite Toyota Tundra out on the track. So they're headed trackside, and we had some drivers standing around, but about the time we came on the air, they started diving aboard their trucks because they know it's time to get out there and get that valuable track time that we're going to see in this practice session.
Track is yet to go green for this final practice, but Stewart Friesen, already aboard his truck, sits in first place, ready to go on the racetrack. He was the fastest in the first practice session this morning. Brett Moffitt was second quick, Matt Crafton third, Sheldon Creed fourth, and Harrison Burton rounded out the top five on single-lap speeds. However, on 10-lap averages in practice number one this morning, Grant Enfinger was the fastest, followed by Sheldon Creed, Brandon Jones, Riley Herbst, and Brett Moffitt as far as the 10-lap consecutive average. You heard from Steve Post down in the garage. Jason Toy is down there as well. And Jason, these trucks, they've got one last chance to dial them in.
Yeah, they got a final opportunity. And, we're talking to a couple of crew chiefs down here and some of the game plans that they have for this final practice session, and a lot of them going to try to get out and do some group stuff here early on to kind of make sure that the handling is right for the trucks. But then towards probably the second half of this practice session, you're going to see a lot of these teams pull in. They're going to let the trucks cool down. They're going to put some tape on the front end and go out and do some mock qualifying runs as well, because we'll qualify coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. And then, like a lot of the crew chiefs will tell you, then we'll just throw all the notes out because we'll run at night and we'll have a whole different setup later on. So that's going to be one of the big challenges. One of the great things we saw in the first practice session with these teams and these trucks going out, shaking the trucks down, making sure they got all the bolts tight and everything on there that they need to. One case that for Sheldon Creed, who was top five quick in practice earlier on today, they took an opportunity to go out and make sure everything was good on the truck, came back and discovered that they had a small crack in the frame of the truck, right around where the mounts happen for the shocks. They came in during that time session, the last hour. They pulled out the welder. They tack welded it in, made sure everything is good, make sure the frame is structured and is solid. They were able to make the adjustment there they needed to and went back out. So using the time wisely, that's a big thing for these crew chiefs and these teams. They don't have a lot of it, so they're going to try to get the best they can.
Race number 7, thank you, Jason, for the Truck Series. Jason Toy, Steve Post working down in the garage. Race number 7 for the Truck Series, 6 down, dominated by Kyle Busch, who went to victory lane 4 times. Austin Hill won at Daytona, and Sauter, Johnny Sauter, won a week ago at Dover International Speedway. And if you were with us, what was it, Alex, about 90 minutes ago? That would have been midway through the first practice session. You heard the Postman and the Toy Man talk about the fact that Johnny Sauter, with his win a week ago, is he the guy that is headed right straight to a championship when we get to Homestead Miami Speedway? We all weighed in on that, and we'll continue to kind of talk a little bit about that as happy hour begins. Glad to have you with us on the Motor Racing Network.
It's going to be a good one. Still, the track yet to go into the green flag conditions gives us the opportunity to go back to the garage and Steve Post.
Down here, one of the drivers that's not in his truck, it's still in the scales, is Ross Chastain. Ross, you had a 50-minute practice session earlier today. I know Alex talked to you during that session, but what'd you learn in that session? How was the track? How was the truck? What types of things did you work on there?
Very loose. Yeah, our 2 North Paul Jr. Designs East Motorsports truck is sideways, so we're wholesaling it here. We got to get it a lot better if we want to go run with these guys tonight.
Is your hunch the loose was a product of a new tire, a worn-out racetrack, something else? What are you working on? What are you wholesaling on it to make it better?
Yeah, I don't know what a good tire feels like, so I definitely, there's a lot left to be desired for grip level and raceability. I mean, they're safe, we know that, but man, it's so hard to get a balance on them. So I think everybody's struggling with it, and whoever hits it right tonight will run good.
Well, we wish you the best as you get out here just a little bit.
All right, thanks.
There we go. That's Ross Chastain. He said a little bit loose, and everyone I talked to had the same thing, guys. And I mentioned a new tire construction here, and it's a little bit of a harder tire. And in talking with some of the folks down here, it is a harder rubber compound, and this track is a year older. And a couple of the drivers we chatted with here as we were getting ready to come on the air said, we ain't going to be holding it wide open around Kansas like we used to. It's going to require some pedaling. It's going to require some brake time, some off-gas time. and it's going to require getting a good balance on the truck, and I think that's what they're working on now, is to get that balance of the truck. And as Ross Chastain said, many others as well, very, very loose is what most of them dealt with in that first practice session. That means the rear end wanted to slide out from under the truck as they got down into the corners.
Green flag is out, Steve Post, and we've got 16 trucks that have already made their way out onto this 1.5-mile racetrack, D-shaped oval, Kansas Speedway. The digital Ally 250 coming your way. That's what they're getting ready for. That will be coming your way at 8 Eastern tonight here on the Motor Racing Network. The Gander Outdoors Truck Series in action here at the Kansas Speedway. Happy Hour is underway, and from Kansas Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Trucks of NASCAR, 25 years and still trucking. We'll take you back to some great races.
Benson to the bottom of the racetrack. This is the race for the lead and the win at Michigan.
And some wild moments.
One truck is in the air. Matt Crafton upside down.
And we'll let you hear the stories behind them.
He was too bullheaded to let me pass him, and I was too bullheaded to let him have it.
Download the show for free on iTunes and at MRN.com.
Hi, this is Mike Backley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll get you up to date with the latest news stories and ready for the upcoming race weekend.
That's what it boils down to. You know, anything can happen in between, and we've seen it the last few years, kind of how crazy things can get.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, and much more.
Wheel that thing, brother, wheel it! That's why you never give up, guys, never give up.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
From Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, this is NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice.
What a day we have in store for you if you are a motorsports fan, maybe of the Truck Series or the Cup Series. Man, this is your home for the entire day because the Motor Racing Network has you covered. We've already had one practice session. That's already in the books. We're underway now with Happy Hour for the Truck Series. That's going to take us to about 11:30, 12:30 Eastern. Well, we're not done yet because Alex and I will stay planted right here, and we will roll the Cup Series practice out. They have two scheduled today, one at 12:30, one at 2:30. Then we'll take a quick break, come back, 7 o'clock Eastern, single car qualifying for the Digital Ally 400 for the NASCAR Cup Series, and that will be immediately followed by the Digital Ally 250 for the Gander Outdoors Truck Series. So it is a busy day, a lot to get to, Alex Hayden.
It's busy on the racetrack right now as well, as we've got Austin Hill and Brett Moffitt working together in a draft. Then they've been going 2 and 3 wide here in practice early on, putting 6 and 7 laps on the board. Matt Crafton is out there mixing it up. Sheldon Creed is out there as well, as he's been getting awfully racy, going below the white line a couple of times to make some passes out there. But it's practice, and that's what you do in practice. You go out there and figure out where you can run, where the grip level is, where your truck's going to respond. But as you see on your screen right now, Sheldon Creed, that 2 truck, he's been putting it just about anywhere he wants to here in his opening 6 laps of this final practice session. You know, Sheldon Creed's an interesting person. If you weren't with us in our first practice this morning, this is the reigning ARCA Menard Series champion. He's an X Games gold medalist. He's raced BMX bicycles, motocross, off-road. Anything he can race, he's going to race. And I say he's adapting quite well to this Gander Outdoors Truck Series.
21-year-old driver out of Alpine, California on the racetrack right now. You're watching him as he brings that truck across the start-finish line and hauls it off back up into the bankings there in turns 1 and 2. Let's talk a little bit about Johnny Sauter for a minute. He was the topic of conversation in our first practice session. Why not make him the lead topic in our happy hour practice? After the win at Dover, everybody just, I don't know, is it too early just to crown him the champion? I think it is. But Steve Post, you know what? Hang on with that thought for just a minute, Steve, on Johnny Sauter. Mike Beam, kind enough to step away and talk with our Jason Toy. Let's do that right now.
Yeah, Mike Beam sits up here on top of the hauler, and you look at your GMS trucks out there, and you know what are some of the crew chiefs? What are they going through right now in this final session? You don't have a lot of time to get ready for tonight.
No, but at least conditions are going to be the same. We feel like you got a little. The sun's out, but it's going to be cold tonight, and so we can do a lot here with tape and just these are some new trucks we've built over the winter, and so we're and we're trying to stay off the splitter. Try to regulate speed wise or race pace, and so that's a lot. But the conditions are perfect right now for tonight.
Well, unfortunately, one of your drivers just scraped the wall out there in Sheldon Creed. We saw them working on it earlier, so they found maybe a little crack in the front end they fixed up as well. But you got contrast between drivers. You bring over a champion and Brett Moffitt to jump in, getting right up to speed in that 24 truck, and you get a young kid in Sheldon Creed, even at 21, so much experience, and he's getting up to speed pretty quick. You guys really develop him well.
Yeah, we try hard. Sheldon, I said we got 3 different versions. You have Brett, the past champion, he's good and solid, and it's a lot of fun, and then you take Sheldon, you take Stewart, so they're, those guys, they're all about dirt, and they're on the gas and stuff, so, but that's what we sign up for, and I'm so proud of all these teams and these drivers, and Sheldon, it's like I tell you, with Friesen and Creed, it's worth the admission just to watch those 2 guys go at it. I can't wait for Eldora. It's going to be quite a show, but every week's a show. The Truck Series is great. NASCAR's done a good job, and it's exciting every week.
What you guys have built at GMS, Maurice Gallagher, and of course you as well, not only in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series, but in the Xfinity Series. I know you've talked about going up to that top level as well. So what about the future for this program that just continues to get stronger?
Yeah, GMS, we got so much going on, especially we got some great partners, and, having Maury, he loves NASCAR racing, and, it's, in NASCAR, they're working hard, to control the cost. I think the next year or 2, you're going to see some big changes for us in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, and I feel like they got the series directors now, with Wayne Alton over there and Brad here, and they understand, what we're trying to do, and but for us, we keep building these programs. Our Canadian series with Sam Mayer and Marty Lindley, they're doing really well, and it's fun to watch that. Like for me, just coming from the old school short track racing, I'm really excited about doing that because I get to go to South Boston and see all that, and it's so it's a lot of fun. It's fun to see these young kids when they win their first race, like Sam, winning at Bristol, and like when Kaz Gralla won in the truck race at Daytona. It is so special for me to see that, the parents that's put forth the effort, and it's kind of like when Colin Braun drove our truck at Ruch, and he won Michigan that time, and he was fortunate enough to beat Kyle that day, and his parents, and that makes it all worth it. But the series is strong, GMS is strong, and we just I tell them now, we got all the tools to do it. It's just about executing an effort.
Mike Beam, competition director here for GMS Racing, that's hanging out with us. And Mike, before we let you go here, you've been a part of a lot of championships at all 3 levels in this sport for many, many years. You still having fun doing all this?
Oh yeah, I'm 63 years old, and it's I'm just so blessed to do this, and I think we all are. I said, I've never really had a job. It don't seem like, except when I laid brick for my dad, and I was 16 then. But so it's oh yeah, it's so fun just to compete and and the people and grow your programs and stuff. Like I said, we're very fortunate, GMS. Maury and and Spencer and them, they love racing, and so it's just to be part of it, and from where we come from 4 or 5 years ago to now, it's amazing. But it's been a lot of hard work, but we're very blessed to have some good people.
I know you love to still build race cars. What was this one you just had out that you rolled out a couple of weeks ago, about a month or so ago, that number 16 car?
So in '77 I worked for Butch Lindley and Marty's dad, and we won the national championship, and I've been wanting to build that Nova forever, just because it's I'll just sit in my garage and look at it if I have to. But I found the ramp truck too that we hauled it with, so we're restoring that. But it's we built that car, and just to honor Butch, as a tribute to him, because he had such a big influence in my career and life. He is such a great person, family man, and just Maury and them, they supported me on it, and honestly, it was one day I just said, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And the guys at the shop did it for me. We're doing a cool thing right now. We're restoring Bill Elliott's 83 Thunderbird he won Riverside with. The original one. I mean, so it's it's a funny story. We had a Bill Elliott reunion down in Dawsonville, and Bill, he had started on some other guy. I said, man, you're still a hack. You need to bring that thing back to our shop, and he did. So we're enjoying working on that. And so the guys at the shop, some of them's never built a car like the Nova, and they really got into it. Now this Thunderbird, it's a challenge because the Nova's pretty easy. You didn't have to cover the tires and all that. So, but we're having a lot of fun, working hard though. But that's kind of where the Nova come from.
There you go, Mike Beam. We appreciate it, sir. Have fun.
Thank you.
Mike Beam, competition director here for GMS Racing, and talked about all of his trucks. That Nova, folks, if you get an opportunity to check it out on social media or anything, it is a beautiful thing to look at, and I am looking forward to seeing that Thunderbird. Steve Post, we talked about one of those drivers is Sheldon Creed. They had the welder out before we started practice because they found a crack in the front end of the frame. They fixed it. They went out, but it hadn't been a great second session.
Now he's got into the fence here, and really, Jason, the damage is just on the right rear of the truck, and he scuffed it up pretty good. We got crew members under the hood going at it with mallets. You can kind of hear the mallets in the background there as they work on the bumper cover for it. It's not a lot of damage, so they're not whacking away at it. It's more of a tap, tap, tap just to try to get it back in position. Sheldon sits aboard the truck, and the damage is really right rear behind the tire. It's scuffed up as far as the lettering and the painting goes, and they're really just trying to massage this bumper and this fender back into position.
So Sheldon Creed tapped the fence a bit ago. Nothing's too severe, according to Steve Post there. Just kind of a footnote on Mike Beam. He talked about him being 63 years old. You look at him, you wouldn't ever believe that. I would lose that bet every single time. But he's been a crew chief in one of these top 3 National Series garage dating all the way back to 1981 when he started as a crew chief with Kyle Petty. He also was a crew chief for the King Richard Petty, for Michael Waltrip. He won twice at the cup level crew chiefing Bill Elliott. Ricky Craven, he won there. 23 years as a Cup Series crew chief. Spent 5 years as an Xfinity Series crew chief, amassing 11 wins there, the majority with Carl Edwards. And then here in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series, 7 years as a crew chief, 11 wins there. Mark Martin took him and his team to victory lane in the Truck Series 6 different times. Mike Beam is a staple inside the Truck Series garage. We're back under the green flag in final practice. Stewart Friesen only put 2 laps down, but he is the fastest out there. Brett Moffitt second, Matt Crafton third, Johnny Sauter fourth, and young Todd Gilliland is fifth. From Kansas Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Looking towards the weekend? Aren't Thursdays a drag? Ours too. Get your weekly dose of nitro-fueled NHRA talk every Thursday on The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is Ralph Shaheen. Join Doug Herbert and myself as we talk with the biggest names, both past and present, to ever stomp down on the loud pedal. Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, motorcycles, you name it, we talk about it. Don't miss The Straight Line, Thursdays on MRN.com, iTunes, or wherever your favorite podcasts are heard.
Winged Nation, your go-to for Winged Sprint Car Talk, news and information. Find all the episodes of Winged Nation on your favorite podcast platforms. Steve Post, Ashley Stremme, and Aaron Evernhead go in-depth with the race winners and personalities from dirt tracks all across America. Like Winged Nation on Facebook. Follow Winged Nation on Twitter. You'll get stories and information and live broadcasts of Winged Nation shows from some of the top dirt tracks in the nation. Winged Nation, your home for winged sprint cars.
From Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, this is NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice.
Back at Kansas Speedway as final practice for the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series continues on. They will race later this evening in the Digital Ally 250 here at Kansas Speedway. Looking forward to the call on that one. The Motor Racing Network airtime for that will be 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Johnny Sauter picked up the win a week ago at the Monster Mile in Dover, Delaware. Currently in final practice, Johnny's put 9 laps on the board, Steve Post, and sits 4th on the leaderboard.
He's 4th on the leaderboard, but I am telling you, he is an unhappy race car driver with his vehicle. I chatted with Johnny before this practice session, and he was one of the few, if not the only truck drivers that I talked to or teams represented, that he was fighting a tight condition, meaning the nose wanted to slide up the racetrack. Everyone else was fighting loose. He told us that Joe Shear and himself had talked, and they really were going to go aggressive on some changes. Now, they've been out on the racetrack 2 different times. I haven't been able to catch Joe. He's been in conversation with Johnny. Joe's actually under the front of the truck now, and Johnny is in there. But watching Johnny's hand signals, it looks like the truck was tight still, sliding up the racetrack, and then it would snap around on him, so it would get loose in a hurry. So they've got some work to do on this truck, and Johnny said right now we're not that good before this practice session, and even though they're 4th fastest on the charts, 4th fastest is not generally what they're looking for. So they're going to put the hood down on it, send them back out. Tenda is on the sponsorship, and that's an equine and pet care product company that is sponsoring them this weekend here. Beautiful little turquoise and black paint scheme. Really good looking truck for Johnny Sauter. Of course, he picked up the win with this paint scheme on the truck last week at Dover, so he is doing really well with it this year. One of the other things that I had a chance to talk to Johnny about is just asking him with his reunion back here with Thor Sport, what's it been like? And he just literally smiled and said, I'm having fun. I'm a race car driver. He's got his main man, Joe Shear. Joe's been his crew chief. They bounced together from team to team over the last few years. And he says, I am having fun racing, and I hope that shows on the racetrack. So having fun Johnny Sauter is a tough Johnny Sauter. He's going to be tough to handle this whole year. But right now, looking at today, they're still trying to get the tight condition out of this race car and get it to turn better in the corners here at Kansas Speedway.
So you're saying then, Steve, that Johnny Sauter is not happy. I'm not used to that. When have we ever seen Johnny Sauter, postman, not happy?
I'll tell you, this is why I absolutely love covering Johnny Sauter, because he can be the most hacked off second place finisher, and that means he's a good race car driver. He is, you're right. He's very happy with the overall picture and the life he leads, living in Wisconsin with his wife and a big family and everything. He's very happy with that. But when he is aboard that race truck, he is never happy with it, because he always wants it faster. He always wants it better. And that's what they're looking for today. They have a distinct problem that they're working on with the tight condition of the truck. But you're right. Johnny Sauter and not happy kind of go together. But isn't that what makes him so great to watch? Don't we want race car drivers that are disappointed with second place finishes and a truck that's not perfect? And that's what we have with Johnny Sauter. And that's A, what made him so much fun for us to watch, and B, made him a driver that team owners like Duke and Rhonda Thorson continue to bring on board. Even he left for a few years and bring him back, because they know you are going to get 100% effort out of Johnny Sauter. And if there is one weakness in your program, he will point it out to you and make sure that everyone works on fixing it. That's what you want as a race car driver, and that's what Johnny Sauter brings. So, no, I don't know that I've ever heard Johnny Sauter happy with a race truck. I've heard him stand in victory lane and not be happy with the race truck, but that's just Johnny Sauter doing Johnny Sauter things.
And you wouldn't want it any other way. Steve, 100% agree with the fact that you don't want a driver that gets out, that finishes 5th and is happy with that. A nice top 5 finish today. You want a Sauter, you want a Kyle Busch. And, you know, when you think of Johnny Sauter and his longevity in the Truck Series, you'd think, man, that's where he got his start. Actually, that's not the case. He didn't start running in the Truck Series full time until 2009. He had already run the Xfinity Series. He'd already run the Cup Series, but found a home in the Truck Series, and it was with Curb Records, with, you know, obviously, Alex, you remember that, and Jason Overstreet was the crew chief that he had on board when he was starting out back in 09. Got his first victory on a 1.5-mile racetrack that year at Las Vegas. And talk about relationships with Johnny Sauter, because, Alex, you know him very well, and you know that in order for him to succeed, we talk about puzzle pieces each and every week. Put them in the right place, give them that right crew chief, and magic will happen.
Yeah, you mentioned Jason Overstreet. Jason's still in NASCAR. He's now one of the top mechanics on Eric Jones's Joe Gibbs Racing Cup car. But the relationship and the success Johnny Sauter's had for the majority of his Truck Series career has been with his crew chief and friend and sometimes enemy, Joe Shear Jr. And I say that with all lovingness. And we'll bring Steve Post back in the conversation on this, because Johnny Sauter and Joe Shear Jr., not only have they been rivals on the racetrack, they've been crew chief and driver and have been rivals at the racetrack together on the same team. But, Steve, their families, the Shear family, the Sauter family on short tracks in Wisconsin, around the Midwest, they've been rivals and foes and fighting and kicking and scratching each other, but also been the best of friends.
The Shear name and the Sauter name are Wisconsin short track royalty. Just, that's all you really need to say about it. And they're really cut from the same cloth. I think we had a portion during the win last week at Dover where they got into a heck of an argument on the radio. It's the way they operate. They understand it's not a personal thing. They understand that Joe Shear wants the truck to go as fast as Johnny Sauter wants it to go. And so it is. And it's a fascinating dynamic watching these two. They've had more winning moments together. Well, I don't know if they've had more than they've had fights with each other. And then sometimes, like on last week at Dover, I think they had both during the course of the race. But that's the nature of the beast with those two. And that's what makes them so successful, is the common drive that they have is to be the best every time their truck rolls onto the racetrack.
Well, that's exactly what they do, Alex. And when you think about, I don't know, I know that this isn't the right way to put it, but when you think about Sauter, and you think about veterans, I think about Matt Crafton. I think about those two guys, and back in the day, it was Crafton, and it was Sauter, and it was Skinner, and it was Benson, and it was Hornaday, and it was Musgrave. And you could probably go on, and I could probably go on and on. Now, when you think of the veterans, you think of Johnny Sauter, and you think of Matt Crafton.
I do. I really do. And when you think about the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Ron Hornaday Jr. is in there based off of his success in this Gander Outdoors Truck Series, and rightfully so. You can look at a Jack Sprague as a potential future Hall of Famer, maybe a Mike Skinner. I think Johnny Sauter deserves that type of compliment right now, too. He's still got a long way to go in his racing career, as does Matt Crafton. But to have two veteran drivers, two champion drivers on the same race team, which, by the way, Duke and Rhonda Thorson, ThorSport Motorsports, still up in Sandusky, Ohio. They didn't even come back to North Carolina and set up shop down there with everybody else. They're doing it on their own up on the shores of Lake Erie up there in Sandusky, Ohio, by the Cedar Point Amusement Park, and having all kinds of success. But I love the fact that they have true, hardcore, hard-nosed racers like a Matt Crafton and a Johnny Sauter.
And a Crafton, of course, he got his start at the Truck Series much earlier, believe it or not, than what Johnny Sauter did. When you go back and you look at Matt Crafton, he really began way back in the early days, 2001, if you will. And Jason Toy, we all cut our teeth calling the Truck Series back then, and we would be saying it's Matt Crafton, it's Brett Bodine, it's Matt Crafton and Ted Musgrave. He goes back with the some of the legendary names in our sport and continues to carve his name in the sport each and every week.
When you look back at the history, and we talked about it earlier in our first practice session, 25 years of the Truck Series, and Matt Crafton's been there for a lot of it, like he said, since 2001. But I think the other thing you need to say with Matt Crafton, the fact is that he's been with Duke and Rhonda Thorson forever. He is, when you think of the number 88 in the Truck Series, that's Matt Crafton, like the 24 with Jeff Gordon or the 48 with Jimmy Johnson. When it comes to the Truck Series, that 88 number is Matt Crafton here since he's been in it, taking him to a championship, taking him to a lot of wins. He's been two-time winner here at the Kansas Speedway, so he knows his way here, and they're trying to get this program. We talked about it before too with ThorSport. They're off to their best start ever as an organization with all four trucks. Their goal to get all four trucks in the field of 8 for the championship run. Not have to worry about one of their trucks getting knocked out on that final race before they go into the playoffs. So they're in a good spot right now. Matt Crafton kind of leading this, and you talked about with Johnny Sauter being back a part of the team. you got two veterans back together again. And when you had Matt Crafton over last 2 years, he's had a lot of young drivers he's had to be the mentor of, and he still is. He leads the rookie meetings a lot of times for these young drivers at racetracks that we go to. But to have Johnny Sauter and him back together again, you got two champions, two veterans that can really bounce things off of each other to do setups. Let's talk about a little bit for Crafton here today. They're complaining their truck's a little bit loose. They're third quick just recently on the speed charts, saying they're trying to get the new tire. They're trying to get more data on this new tire. And the one thing that we were talking about with Junior Joyner, his crew chief, is the fact he's saying these tires are a little bit finicky right now. They're not really kind of saving anything or learning the racetrack, and meaning the fact that they're not really wearing off too much. They can't get a read on them, but they're slipping and sliding out there. They just came in. They changed the right rear shock to try to help out a little bit with the torque on the back end of this truck, and they're carrying such a load in the corners. So much of the fact, and Steve Post, you can attest to this as well, and we've seen these trucks for all these different tracks across the country. They're carrying so much of a load on that right rear with these trucks that they're wearing out the Goodyear logo on the right side of the sidewall of these tires. So that's going to be something we'll keep an eye on tonight.
All right, Jason, thank you very much. As practice rolls on, happy hour practice that is. Hey, you're enjoying it one of two ways here this morning. You're either logged in at mrn.com or you have the video stream on NASCAR.com. Either way, again, welcome to Kansas. As you see the car, or make it to trucks, kind of bouncing back and forth on video there. One time it was off of turn 4. Now it was off turn number 2. There's Matt Crafton. We just got done talking about Matt, a 14-time winner at this level. Unfortunately for Matt, he hasn't gone to victory lane since 2017. I wouldn't rule him out here, though. Mile-and-a-half racetrack at Kansas. Yeah, he's pretty good at that. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's to come a little bit later on. We're going to roll out of truck practice right into the Cup Series practice. We've got a question there for you that you might start to think about, and then you can also weigh in. We'll do that when we come back. From Kansas Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
The 1993 Cup Series season had more than its fair share of twists and turns.
Checkered flags waving. I look in my mirror, and here's Earnhardt right on my tail, and he goes down low to pass me. And I said, oh, no, you don't.
As Wallace spins, Wallace's car goes on its nose.
Hear stories that you've never heard before in a 10-part series called The 1993 Season, 25 years later.
And Davey was behind me, and we came off the corner, and there's a guy standing in the middle of the racetrack.
You can download it for free on iTunes and at mrn.com right now.
2019 is the Motor Racing Network's 50th year, and things are about to get a lot louder. I'm Woody Kane. The NASCAR season is revving its engine, and MRN's two biggest loudspeakers are back when race spotter Joey Meyer and I bring you the latest news, results, and headlines every Monday on MRN Out Loud. Crank it up Mondays on mrn.com, iTunes, or wherever podcasts are heard.
From Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, this is NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice.
When we see the red and black flags fly here to end happy hour for the Truck Series, we're not going anywhere. We will take you immediately into the NASCAR Cup Series practice session number 1, and we have a MRN question for the day. It's already out there. It's already been posted. We will now be 1/3, believe it or not, 1/3 of the way through the 2019 NASCAR Cup Series season. Means we're getting ever closer to Homestead, Miami, and the Championship 4. If you had to plunk down some money on the 4 drivers that would be there in Miami, who would they be at the Cup level? We're going to talk about that. Postman Dave Moody, Alex Hayden, and I coming up when this is over. But you can weigh in right now at MRN Radio on Twitter. Use the hashtag AskMRN. I think Alex Hayden has it up on his Twitter page. I have it up on mine as well. But at MRN Radio, use the hashtag AskMRN. What 4 drivers right now do you think will be headed to Homestead Miami Speedway and racing for a championship?
Truck Series Happy Hour is ongoing right now as we continue to watch on your screen on NASCAR.com the good, hard draft practice going down the backstretch here. One driver that's on property about to make his 204th career NASCAR Gander Outdoors Series start is a gentleman by the name of Norm Benning, and he is a staple in this garage. Steve Post.
Norm, Alex Hayden just said your 204th start. My gosh, I didn't think you were that old. You're a young man to have 204 starts.
Yeah, it must be a mistake. It's just like my age. I got that all screwed up, too.
I saw something, Norm, a few moments ago that I rarely see. A race car driver with a wrench in his hand. What were you doing underneath the car? What are you working on here today?
I'm like Kenny Schrader and people like that. You know, you work on your own stuff, and then you know it's right, and you try to make it right anyways. But yeah, we were a little loose. I was just moving the track bar. I got 4 guys here. They kind of watched me do it.
You mentioned Kenny Schrader. What did I hear? You're getting ready to do some racing in Canada. Tell us about what you got going on with Schrader and Kenny Wallace.
Yeah, Full Throttle Speedway called me up and asked me if I'd race with them up there, their speedway in Canada. So it'll be me and Kenny Schrader and Kenny Wallace on June 8th. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a short track, high bank, late models, and looking forward to it.
Really, really cool. Now, is this asphalt or a dirt track?
It's asphalt.
Oh, so right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, asphalt.
Very small wheel asphalt. Do you get a chance to do that much, or is this a pretty neat, unique opportunity for you?
Every once in a while I get to run dirt and stuff like that, but this Kenny guy wants me to run up there 6 times this year, so I think I'll be running the late models there the day before the truck road race. I think that's going to happen too.
Wow, not a bad deal. You ever think a hired driver, Norm?
I'd love to be one of those prima donnas who don't have to do anything but carry their helmet.
Well, there we go. We're going to let you get back at it with your truck and your crew guys back here. We wish you the best. And what is that, June 8th in Canada?
8th at Full Throttle Speedway in Canada.
There we go. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
There we go. Norm Benning standing down here. Got one leg up on the jack stand, and I think he's ready to go back to work on this. And now actually just working with his crew guys on getting the adjustments made on his Chevrolet Silverado.
We need more people like Norm Benning at all levels of NASCAR. I'm laying underneath and working on my car while my crew stands here and watches me, lying about his age. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he was born in 52, and that would make him roughly how old, Alex?
I carry the 1 minus 2. It's 67 years old. Whether that's right or not, who knows? But according to my sheet, he's 67 years old. So
here's a driver that does not have a top 10 in his career. 204 starts, no wins, no top 5s, no top 10s. Why in the world would we even waste our time talking to a guy like Norm Benning? Well, there's a pretty good reason, don't you think, Alex?
Because he's a racer, and
Exactly.
he loves racing and everything about it. As Steve was interviewing there, talking about going up running asphalt late models, sure, why not? Let's go do that. You know, Norm is one of those guys, and he's an emotional guy who loves to be a part of things. He used to wear number 57 on his truck, and he always wanted to have just a single-digit number. That's it. Didn't matter which one. He thought single-digit numbers on race cars looked better than double-digit numbers. But at the time, there wasn't a single digit available. He always ran the number 57. Then suddenly, Kevin Harvick Incorporated went out of business. They had the number 6, and he went after it with guns ablazes. And that's one of the things. He grabbed me by my shoulder, and I'll never forget. It was at Michigan International. Grabbed me by my shoulder. He says, "I got it. Next year, I'll be wearing the number 6 on my truck. I finally got a single digit." That's the type of thing Norm Benning just loved to do.
All right, how about one more quick Norm Benning story before we move on? And I think this sums up Norm Benning and where this sport was, maybe still is, and where it's gone. Okay, when we look down in the garage, let's look at the Cup garage. It is lined with, what are they, 52-footers? Whatever the absolute biggest semi that you can haul up and down the road would be. Lined with them. I see the M&Ms, the FedEx. You know what we're talking about. Shell Pennzoil is down there. Now when we look over in the Truck Series, we see the same thing for the most part, but not all of them. Norm Benning climbs on board his probably Ford 350 dually with a tag behind it, probably a 24-foot enclosed trailer. But when he went to the track, at one point, Alex Hayden, he used to always bring a companion with him up and down the road. Unfortunately, he lost that companion. Tell the story.
His dog. He had his beloved dog with him that rode in the front seat in that pickup truck, hauling his truck around every time. every racetrack, everywhere they went, mile after mile after mile. It was Norm and his beloved dog. Unfortunately, his dog passed away at the beginning of last year, and he was telling me about it in the garage. You got to visit with Norm Benning. You just have to. That's part of what you do. You visit with Norm Benning every time the Truck Series is on the ground. And he came up to me and said, man, if you don't mind, just mention my dog. I miss my dog. And it was gut-wrenching because it was his best friend. It was his travel partner, his race buddy. Everywhere they went, driving his single truck, by the way. He doesn't have a backup. His single truck up and down the highways, the interstates. And I guess one last thought on Norm Benning, and we'll let Steve Post describe this one because we were all a part of it. The inaugural Truck Series race at Eldora Speedway, Steve, Norm Benning stole the show, and I would say arguably in his NASCAR career, that was his biggest crowning achievement, was making the main event.
Yeah, it was the B main up at Eldora, and he was racing for the final transfer spot, and he was on the outside, and someone dove under him. Norm got up into the fence. The other truck got up into the fence, and Norm rim rode around the outside fence. Crowd was ecstatic. They were going wild, and Norm said, I never lifted. And he actually had T-shirts made up with he never lifted, and Norm raced his way into the inaugural Derby up at Eldora Speedway, which will be up there in August, the dirt track race. But Norm Benning raced his way in, and you're right, Alex. He stole the show that night, and he went on a full-blown media campaign and everything with that, and it was some fun stuff. Great dirt track racing, and just the character that Norm Benning is.
And Winston Kelly, the executive director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, took Norm's plain white unpainted helmet and put it in the NASCAR Hall of Fame to highlight that particular year because of that special moment at Eldora. So Norm Benning, true character, and I think that may be in line to be the line of the year so far for the Motor Racing Network. I got 4 guys helping me, but they're watching me.
I love it. That is NASCAR, is it not? That's what we grew up with. That's what still goes on every night at your local short track in this country. Now, I would be willing to wager a bet, and make sure you understand how I mean this. He is making, Norm is, career start 204. On the other end of the garage, there's a young lady down there getting ready to make career start number 5, driving the Nice Tool Equipment truck, and it's pretty. We saw it earlier today. Alex Hayden and I were in the garage, and Steve and Jason were up here. And I can tell you, Jason, by looking at that garage and looking at the fire suit and all of the fancy sponsors on board that truck, that they probably, for Angela Ruch, have more money, sponsorship support invested in this one race tonight than what Norm Benning has for the entire year.
Oh, they definitely do indeed. Of course, you're talking about Angela Ruch and driving for Nice Motorsports. She's getting ready to make the start here this week. Wasn't in the truck last week at Dover, but she's starting to run a lot more here. And, of course, one thing with Angela, and we've seen her and her sister run before. They ran in the Truck Series a handful of years ago in Martinsville. They've also ran the Xfinity Series. But Angela continuing on with the racing. Of course, her uncle, the famous Daytona 500 1990 winner, and Derek Cope has been helping her with her career as well to get to going where she is. But she's really starting to pick up running these trucks really well. I mean, she had an 8th place finish back at Daytona to start off the season, and really kind of utilizing her track time to the best that she can. And we saw her at Texas a handful of weeks ago, and she about put it headlong in the wall when the truck kicked out on her and did probably one of the best saves we've seen all year long in a practice session, in a qualifying session actually, to be able to do that. And she is continuing to move stronger and stronger. It's a special weekend for her this weekend because she is a first-time mom. Her and her husband Mike had adopted a child, just turned 2 months yesterday, and they're going to be celebrating her first Mother's Day. King Knight Ruch is his name, and they'll be celebrating Mother's Day on Sunday, so she's pretty stoked about the fact that she's going to be running here tonight. Matter of fact, she's bringing her truck back in, continuing to get better and better, working her way up the speed charts inside the top 20, and they're looking forward to celebrating Mother's Day for the first time for her and her family. And also she's got her new TV show that's coming out called The Ruch Life here very soon as well, continuing the film for that, and definitely has things going in the right direction and really kind of turning into a great face and a really good ambassador here for NASCAR, because she is out doing a lot of media promoting the sport in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series and getting her opportunity to be behind the wheel.
Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day to Angela and all mothers around the world, and especially a special happy Mother's Day to the single dads who are full-time moms that do that as well. But King Knight Ruch, that's the name of her child, and it's above the door on her race truck here this weekend. From Kansas Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Before you know it, we'll be crowning the 2019 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup champion in Miami. You need to be there to witness Ford Championship Weekend, November 15th through the 17th at Homestead Miami Speedway. 3 days, 3 races, 3 NASCAR champions.
What a year for Joey Logano, and he caps it off with a win at Homestead Miami Speedway.
Pick out the best seats in the house for the pinnacle race of the 2019 NASCAR season in South Florida. Call 866-409-7223. That's 866-409-RACE.
Since 1942, Freightliner has been an industry innovator, developing trucks renowned for their dependability and efficiency. Whether your job requires a dump truck, a concrete mixer, or a delivery truck, you can count on Freightliner to maximize your productivity. With a wide range of horsepower and torque rating that meet even the most demanding job conditions, Freightliner trucks are built to build your business. Learn more at Freightliner.com. Freightliner, work smart.
This is NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice.
1 week ago, he gave one away, or the shot at winning one away. That's not going to happen tonight. Smoothly into turn number 3. Smoothly off of turn number 4 for Noah Gragson.
Noah Gragson, the 19-year-old out of Las Vegas, Nevada, will see the checkered flag, and Noah Gragson wins the 37 Kind Days 250 at Kansas Speedway. That's how it sounded 1 year ago. Noah Gragson picking up the win here in the Gander Truck Series at Kansas Speedway. One of those talented young drivers that's spent time driving these trucks around racetracks around the NASCAR circuit, now driving for Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And Jeff, another one of those young drivers. As a matter of fact, there's quite a few of them right now. But Todd Gilliland has an awful lot of pressure on his 18-year-old shoulders right now because of the name Gilliland. His dad, his grandfather, highly successful race car drivers in the NASCAR ranks. And then his truck owner, some guy named Kyle Busch, highly successful. For an 18-year-old, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. And Steve, why don't you weigh in on this? Let me drop a stat on you. Todd Gilliland, 18 years old, only 18. He's a 2-time winner in the ARCA Menard Series. He is a 7-time K&N Pro East winner. He's a 13-time K&N Pro West Series winner. Now fast forward to the Gander Outdoors Truck Series, where he is 0 for 31. And unfortunately, when you say I'm 0 for 31, you know, for a guy like Norm Benning, he'd go, hey, you know what? I'm 0 for 204. But Norm Benning doesn't drive for Kyle Busch.
No, and I think that's where the pressure that you talked about is for young Todd Gilliland, 18-year-old driver, and he is sitting aboard the truck here. And yeah, he needs to get out and get up at the front, run a little bit better up at the top front of the field. And talent is certainly there. It's just putting that elusive combination together, that challenge of getting the right crew chief, the right driver, so that when he says it's a tick-free, we know what a tick-free means. And right now, that's what they're fighting with. He said he was a tick-free. That means the rear end was a little bit loose, and so they were trying to tighten him up and get him down into the corners as they work along the way here with this car. So they are going to send him right back out now, and they have got one more run, and it looks like to me this is going to be a qualifying run here. As Marcus Richmond, the crew chief, walks to the top of the pit box, looks like Todd Gilliland, the front of the truck is all taped up, and they're going to go for a qualifying run. But the pressure is on this young racer as he works his way through the ranks and has a great opportunity with Kyle Busch Motorsports, but he knows that the time is where he's got to win. And as talented as he is, Marcus Richmond calling the shots on this team, they should put themselves in a spot here to win over the course of the next few races. And when they need to do that, then young Todd Gilliland needs to pull the trigger and get it done. And I have confidence that he has all the ability. You listed all the races he's won and the racing pedigree he has as well. So we'll see what happens, but he's going out now for a qualifying run. Hopefully they got that truck secured just a little bit more, and he can go out and give it a good qualifying run here and see what kind of speed they have for later after this afternoon's qualifying run later today.
With so much pressure on the shoulders, 18 years old, yet to win in Kyle Busch Motorsports trucks, I guess the question is out there. Is it fair to put that much pressure on an 18-year-old shoulders?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I'll tell you why yes. Because there are other people that are standing in line. You know, that would be the biggest reason why yes. And now people are going to come back and go, this kid's 18. You know, how old was he when he got in the truck for the first time? You know, that's too much pressure to expect to be able to put on a young kid. The problem is there's a lot of young kids out there that are standing in line and waiting for the opportunity. They all have their hand up. Some of them have financial backing. Some do not. So from that aspect, I would say, yeah, go ahead and put the pressure on them. Now, the other side of the equation is I think we recognize the fact that this is a kid that has talent. We've seen a lot. Jeff Gordon comes to mind. Would you have fired Jeff Gordon after year one of watching him in the Xfinity Series? A lot of people would have said, yeah, he destroyed more cars than he finished, but yet we hung with him. And we did that, and now he's a Hall of Famer. Do you hang with Todd Gilliland, or do you move in a different direction?
I think it's fair to put the pressure on him because this is the top 3 national NASCAR series. You have live radio coverage. You have live television coverage. You better be able to perform. This is professional racing. So there better be pressure out there. When you're in some of the best equipment on the racetrack, you absolutely better be able to perform and better be able to handle the pressure. He picked up a win a couple of weeks ago at Talladega in an ARCA Series race there at Talladega, but good for him for doing that. That proves that he can do it. He's got the self-confidence, but you got to do it at this level now, and we're waiting for that to happen. I agree with Steve Post, with Marcus Richmond, a very proven winning crew chief at KBM there. They've got all the tools and resources necessary. Todd now needs to step up as the driver and get that thing to victory lane, and I think he's going to do it much sooner rather than later.
All right, clock beginning to run down. We'll see him tonight. Don't forget these trucks in action here tonight. Motor Racing Network with you, live coverage beginning at 8 o'clock Eastern. Jason Toy, who you got your eye on down there?
Well, let's talk about Todd Gilliland's teammate, Harrison Burton, another youngster. He's in the KBM truck, one that's been a victory lane here before. Mike Hillman Jr. is, matter of fact, he's working the wrench on the left rear here. They're getting ready to go out and make a final qualifying attempt. I know we're running out of time here in this practice session, but they have not laid down a qualifying attempt or a qualifying practice time here at all. So they put 4 fresh Goodyears on here. They went ahead and put the tape on the front end. They're cooling down. They got the hoses attached to the radiator on the front end, circulating some of that cold water through it to cool it down. Mike Hillman Jr., who has worked with young drivers in the past, he's worked with veterans in the past, and he's been to victory lane. He's been to championship runs. He had a lot of great runs with Todd Bodine over the years in the Truck Series. He is calling the shots down here, and he is working well with a driver that has a great pedigree. Of course, his dad is Jeff Burton. And he's out here. Matter of fact, he's got the headset on talking to his son now who sits behind the wheel. They'll get ready to roll back out. Top 15 in practice so far, but that's just during race trim. Most of the drivers in that top 15 have been doing qualifying runs. This will be the first time they go out with the tape on the front end for Harrison Burton as they go out for another attempt here as time dwindles down here in this practice session.
Mock qualifying runs taking place from a lot of these teams. It's a one-day show, similar to what you have at a local short track like a Berlin Raceway. You unload, you go out there, you practice, you qualify, and then you race come nighttime. It's kind of a throwback, if you will, on this day here at Kansas Speedway for these Truck Series teams. But to be able to get out there right now in the closing minutes of the final practice, tape it up, get it sealed off, and get it as slick as you can possibly get it to try to find raw speed by yourself, you got to squeeze an awful lot into a very short amount of time.
And I will make sure that Berlin gives you the $20 bill for dropping that in there. They race tomorrow night, by the way, under the lights. Little short track up in Grand Rapids. All right, Stewart Friesen, should we go ahead and make the trophy out now, Alex? And here's why. I say that. He was quickest in our morning practice. He's quickest in happy hour, and he was quick before he made the mock qualifying run. And now that he's made that, he's quickest again. Obviously, they've got a good truck. How big would it be for a driver that's gone runner-up 5 times to finally get the win?
It would be huge. I think it would be more big for his self-confidence because this is one of the best dirt track racers in the country. As a matter of fact, Jason and Steve were talking about it earlier before we went on the air, that he's going to jump on an airplane, fly back, and race Fonda, New York tomorrow night in the dirts in the old modified. So
another $20, by the way.
Yeah, you know, he wants to win, and he wants to win at this level. He's been close, and he was fastest in first practice. Final practice has the red and black flags in the air right now. Stewart Friesen, the fastest in both practices. This could be his day.
Brett Moffitt second quick as the practice session comes to a close. Sheldon Creed third quick. Matt Crafton fourth. Grant Enfinger fifth quick, followed by Johnny Sauter, Todd Gilliland, Tyler Ankrum, Ross Chastain, and Gus Dean climbing into the top 10 late there. Mock qualifying run will move that truck up to 10th.
Austin Hill was 11th in final practice. 12th was Brandon Jones. By the way, Brandon Jones ran the most laps in this 50-minute session. He put 50 laps on his truck today in this final practice. He was 12th on the leaderboard. 13th, Austin Wayne Self. Ben Rhodes was 14th. Riley Herbst was 15th. 16th, Harrison Burton. 17th, Natalie Decker. 18th, Tyler Dipple. 19th, Angela Ruch. Spencer Boyd, 20th. 21st, Timmy Hill. 22nd, Jordan Anderson. 23rd, Joe Nemechek. 24th, Josh Rayholm. Josh Balicki was 25th. 26th was TJ Bell. Jennifer Jo Cobb, 27th. 28th, Norm Benning, and Bailey Curry, 29th.
Digital Ally 250 coming your way. Motor Racing Network, live flag-to-flag coverage beginning at 8 o'clock. They will qualify later on this afternoon. And Steve Post, what do you think we're going to see here tonight under the lights when the trucks roll?
Well, we'll see what happens when the trucks roll here tonight, but we do know in the practice sessions it was Stewart Friesen, the fastest truck in early practice this morning and this afternoon in this second practice here this morning. Stewart has just pulled the truck back in, climbs out of that race truck. We'll see if we can catch a word with him here and assess what his thoughts are from the driver's perspective. Stewart, we looked at the scoring monitors, and you were at the top of the speed chart for both the practice sessions. That looks good, but how did it feel as a race car driver?
Being on the top of the board is always cool, you know. It's neat. We haven't done that all year, so it was pretty good. Almar Silverado was fast, had some speed.